We're talking about the Boston Celtics. I think I'm higher on this team than anybody. So let's talk about it. My name's Adam. Thanks for clicking on the video. I'm talking about the Boston Celtics today and their team preview. I'm doing team previews for all 30 NBA teams in reverse order of how I think the standings will be at the end of the season. And so if you like this, if you've seen any other of the videos, feel free to subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and let's talk about why the Celtics are going to be the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, and that should not be a surprise to anybody. And let's start with their offseason. As we're going to talk about offseason, Vegas win totals, their rotations, and also their salary cap situation going into the season. So let's just get it going. All right, Boston. I was a little surprised about how much they were able to do in the offseason. I thought that mostly they would just bring everybody back, and that would be just kind of just leave it as is. Kind of just accept that, yeah, hey, last year there was COVID and, a little crazy and, we weren't as good and, coming off of a shortened season or a shortened off season, like all these different things. But I think simply enough, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but the biggest offseason move, I think, for the Celtics was to move Brad Stevens into the front office position that he is now, and then also bring in Ime Udoka as the head coach of this team. I think Udoka has been around some really good players, players and coaches during his career. He played for the Spurs. He was coached by Popovich. He was coaching with Popovich, and last year he was with Steve Nash and his really well-established staff in Brooklyn. So I think that there's something there where maybe the young players just needed a new voice, and that's going to be a big reason why I'm high on him. And I know, hey, he's a rookie head coach, but I just think that there is talent on this team, and I expect to bounce back here. Again, they were, 2 wins away from going to the NBA Finals in the bubble. Everybody thought it was going to be them instead of Miami. So, a lot of people will just ride the roller coaster of teams and say, okay, well, super high one year, and then last year they're, the 7th seed, and people want to sell all their stock when it's low. But I am buying it when it's low because I think that we've seen good history from this team and have really good players on their team. So let's go to the offseason here and really quickly go over this. So they end up making that Kemba Walker trade, where they trade Kemba to Oklahoma City, and then in return they got Moses Brown, who they ended up shipping out again. But the big piece that they got in that deal was Al Horford. And I think, again, continuity. They're trying to build a culture, and Horford was a part of that Celtics team for a while, and I think he brings a familiarity to the team, if I pronounce that right. And Tatum and Jaylen Brown know him. Marcus Smart know him. So it's not like a brand new player that they had to get used to playing alongside with again. It's a player that they know, who's a good leader, who's a good teammate, all these good things for Al Horford. So I think that's another boost in the right direction for them. They also were able to trade for Josh Richardson, who I think has had a couple weird seasons lately. He played in Dallas last year. I just think Luka is dominating the ball so much in Dallas that it makes it hard for other players that need the ball in their hand to be successful. So Richardson there, and then he wasn't as great in Philadelphia the year before, but when he was in Miami, and he was scoring really well. So I'm really interested to see what the Celtics will do with his role moving forward into the season. We'll talk a little bit about rotations in a minute. But I'm really interested to see what Josh Richardson will be because, again, we've had kind of 2 not great years from him after looking pretty good in Miami. They also brought in Juancho Hernan-Gomez and Bruno Fernando from Atlanta and Memphis. And then they added and brought back, again, continuity. They brought back Enes Kanter in free agency, and then they also signed Dennis Schroeder to a minimum deal. Now, the whole Schroeder situation was wild because Schroeder bet on himself that he was going to get more money than the market was saying that he was worth. Ends up kind of falling and ends up getting this minimum deal. And I look at this pickup for the Celtics. I think everything just fully completed with their offseason. You're telling me that you didn't give up, Marcus Smart, who was rumored to be in trades. You didn't give up Jaylen Brown. You didn't give up any of your young players that you really liked. It was just really interesting to me to see that they were able to get some impact players and players that have been around the league. So they're adding depth. They still keep their good core. They're building on that continuity. They're bringing in a new voice of a head coach, and they still have Brad Stevens in the building. So it's not like he's gone away. But I liked it a lot. I think their offseason gets an A from me. Because, again, they didn't have a whole lot of flexibility to do anything unless they were willing to give up pieces. But yet they were still able to make impactful transactions nonetheless. And then, again, let's really quickly talk about who they lost. Moses Brown traded. Chris Dunn was traded to the Celtics and then later traded to the Grizzlies. Carson Edwards, Evan Fournier, also they lost in the sign and trade deal to the Knicks. Semi Ojeleye, Tristan Thompson, and Kemba Walker. So, like, these were players, it's like, if we were going to lose impact players, we'd probably prefer them to be Kemba and Tristan Thompson and Fournier, who we had for, like, the last 30% of last year. So, interesting nonetheless. And let's transition now over to their cap sheet. Kind of what the Celtics financials look like in the future. They just had also re-signed Marcus Smart. So you can see his deal on screen here. Under 20 mil, pretty good. I think he adds a level of defense for them that's really, really valuable. And while his offensive game still needs a little bit of, I feel like, maybe he's never going to get there offensively, like, to be really good. I do feel like he's a smart basketball player. Doesn't make too many mistakes. I think his shot selection's a little weird, but it is what it is. They're still paying Tatum a lot of money. Obviously, him and Jaylen Brown are kind of two of their biggest contracts, along with Al Horford, who they brought in from Oklahoma City. The Horford money is really interesting, but again, next year it's non-guaranteed, so we'll have to see what happens there. But other than that, like, they bring in Josh Richardson, who's making 23 over the next 2 years, so not like a horrible contract. Juancho Hernandez-Gomez is a really good deal. Schroeder's a really solid deal. Like, and then we haven't even mentioned their young guys: Nesmith, Peyton Pritchard, and Robert Williams. They are young players that are just ready to be released, I think, and unleashed, I should say, when the time comes. I think that in the summer league, we saw a lot from Peyton Pritchard. He played really, really well. Now, I don't know how many minutes he'll get, and we'll go into the rotations here soon, but I just don't think I think these are guys that you got to put on the court and mess around with some lineups, and maybe a first-year head coach like Udoka will be the one who tries that out. Other than that, I don't really see a tradable contract on this team. I don't really see a contract where I'm like, oh, we got to get rid of it. Again, Horford does bring value, and I think they're fine with kind of swallowing the money of Horford. If it was any other player, like, again, if it was Kemba, like, they were quick to get off of it. But now they're bringing in Horford, who knows the team, knows the organization, knows the players. I think that's fine, and they're totally fine with kind of their cap situation as is. So let's talk about their rotations now for the Celtics. According to Hoops Hype, I might disagree with this a little bit, but they have Schroeder, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Al Horford in their starting five. So the two amendments that I would make on this is, like, they might start like Josh Richardson at the 2, and there's a lot of talk about Marcus Smart just playing the 1 and being the point guard for the team. I don't know how much we'll see that and how many minutes he'll get at that position, but unknown. I think Schroeder actually is probably really good off the bench. I don't know if he's like a startable point guard in the league that I would feel comfortable with. Like, he's good, he's talented, but I think I'd prefer him to come off the bench. And then Robert Williams as well. Like, does Williams get more run with Horford? This is a little bit of a logjam issue for the Celtics, is their kind of big man rotation. So they have Juan Hernangomez, they have Enes Kanter, Robert Williams, and Al Horford. So, like, I'm interested to see kind of what happens there, or do they use certain lineups against certain teams? Like, who's going to get consistent minutes? I think at the center position, I think you'd probably favor Williams just because maybe they're going to rest Horford on some nights. But, when he plays, when Horford and Williams play, I just wonder how much they're eating into each other's minutes. Is there like a lineup where they want to put Horford and Williams on the floor together. I don't really know if that works, but again, new coach, we'll see kind of what they work with and how fluid they work with the rotations. This is a really good team to me. I think you have a really good starting five. Schroeder as, I think, one of the better six-man off the bench players that you can have in the league. And you have experience. Like, again, I think not to, dump on Fournier and Kemba Walker, but I just think that Horford's valuable. I think that Richardson's valuable. I mean, these guys who have been to the playoffs, Schroeder's been to the playoffs, right? So, like, these are dudes who add experience, who are talented in and of themselves. And I just think this team is really good, and I'm buying on them. Vegas actually agrees with me. They have them at 47.5 wins. I think we're pushing 50 wins for the Celtics this year. I know. Call me crazy because I'm suggesting that the 6th seed in the East will get 50 wins. But I don't know. I think this is a better team. I'll take the over on the 47.5. I think they're a better team. But I'll stop babbling here about how much I love the Celtics, even though I'm not really a big fan of the team. But I think they're going to be much improved. I think a lot of people are sleeping on the Celtics this year. I think they had a good offseason. I think their players are just going to get better with Brown and Tatum. And let's just go. So I will say this. I do have a big old man crush on Jason Tatum. I think he also might take a big step forward this year and become this new forward, this new young forward of the league, right? Like we see different players emerge, right? And so I think this is his time. Again, 5th season in the league for Tatum. I think now he understands like he's the guy, and he'll roll with it. And I think he's going to thrive in that position. Let me know what you think. If you think the Celtics are going to miss the playoffs or whatever, I will go to war against that argument. But let me know what you feel like in the comments. Check out the other videos. That's it for today's videos, and we'll catch you tomorrow.